Hello, Hockey World. It is Tuesday, May 13th, 2014.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Josh Rimmer.
And I am Eklund, and you're listening to the Hockeybuzzcast on Hockeybuzz.com. You might also be watching it, and we might also be live. So we're going to check into that. But before we go to live and try to tweet this out to everybody and tell them to come in and join us, we might be able to watch this. We're trying to get people to watch us live now. That'll be good. And it'll keep Josh, from dropping F-bombs all the time. So that'll be good. So let's get right into last night. Josh, let's start with you today. We got and let's start with the late game for a change. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to be playing before we do that. Sorry, I'm going to be playing back here the Pittsburgh Penguins Rangers game. So this is for Game 7. We'll also be doing the Wild game. So far, this has been pretty good. It's been 3 for 4 in predicting. Shoot. Shoot. Shoot.
Live TV. It's just a thing.
Right. You're just giving me crap about
that game's going live. I'll keep you updated if anything happens, if anyone scores in that game. But Mike, tell us a little bit about Anaheim, LA last night. Your opinions. I mean, Gibson's there. Gibson's the guy.
Yeah, John Gibson is definitely playing impressive. 3 regular season games after a full AHL season, and now 2 games in the playoffs, 2-0. Shutout in his first playoff game, and last night I thought he played very well, especially for a 20-year-old kid. LA didn't quit. They were down 4-1, came back and narrowed it to 3, but I think Gibson provides the Ducks a little bit more confidence between the pipes that they were getting from Anderson, who was up and down, and Hiller, who just seems to not I don't know if he doesn't have it anymore, but he's definitely not the goaltender of a few years ago. One thing that's impressive offense from other players other than Perry and Getzlaf. Devontae Smith-Pelly scored 2 goals last night. They don't seem to be backing down from the Kings, who normally would put forth a physical presence that would intimidate most teams, but the Ducks are standing up to them and kicking back a little physicality as well. So far, now it's 3-2 Anaheim going back to LA, and all the pressure is back on the Kings. But as we saw from the last series against San Jose, they were down 3-0 and the pressure didn't get to them. So we'll see what happens. Josh, what do you think?
Well,
Josh,
okay.
Sorry, continue. Sorry, Josh. I got 2 things in one. Sorry about that. I apologize.
That's okay.
No problem. Yeah, the Ducks, the momentum putting John Gibson in goal, as I mentioned the other day, has really lit a fire under them, playing great hockey. My boy Don Cherry last night agreeing with me, Eck, that it was a brilliant move by Bruce Boudreau putting John Gibson in, and there you have it.
All right, brilliant is one thing. Brilliant is one thing, Josh. Gutsy is another.
Am I not fired anymore? No, I'm kidding.
No, yeah, you were never fired. Although some people thought you were, oddly enough.
I know. I got a lot of phone calls after that, Eck.
I know people were tweeting out like crazy. So yeah, we are live now. So if you're joining us, we appreciate you guys watching us. And I did tweet it out to everybody. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, so you said yesterday, Josh, that this was a gutsy move. That it was a gutsy move and it's a brilliant move. Oh yes, for sure. Brilliant is maybe overstating it. It was obvious, I was going to say, but this is not gutsy. He had no options.
Yeah, I don't know. Cherry actually might have used gutsy. I'm trying to look for my tweet because I tweeted to you right after last night. As soon as he said it, I'm like, I got to tweet Eck. Yeah, great job, Bruce Boudreau, for having the guts to put in John Gibson. Love it, Eck. I love it.
All right. What does he know? He's John Cherry,
He's a little senile.
He's just a newbie on the block, Mike.
Somebody on the CBC panel last night made a pretty good point. That's shocking. I'm just kidding. If they would have gone to Hiller in Game 4 and they lost and went down 3-1. Then they would have had to have gone with Gibson in a elimination situation in Game 5. Whereas they go with Gibson in Game 4, and if they lose with him, they can go back to Hiller. So I mean, I understand the thought process that Boudreaux went under. I just think that you look at the way Gibson played in pressure situations at the World Juniors in UFA, at the World Senior Hockey Championship later that year, where he stole the job away from Ben Bishop, and then in the AHL, and now with the Ducks. I mean, I heard comparisons today of Gibson to Ken Dryden, back in the early '70s, which I think is a little overdoing it a bit. I mean, it could be another Steve Penny, or there's a couple other Boston Bruins goaltenders, Mike Moffat.
Fine line between Steve Penny and Patrick Waugh, but
right.
One half dozen the other. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it is funny that people are throwing the Patrick Waugh comparisons out. And the bottom line is, a new goalie who's a good goalie is a tough goalie to beat, because it takes time to learn how to beat goalies in the NHL. And then the toughest thing for a goalie is always his second year. The sophomore slump in goaltending is historic. And why is it so? Because, I've talked to plenty of scouts about this and plenty of coaches, and they say it's because everyone has a video camera now, and we learn how to beat these goalies. And if one of them has one weakness, the entire NHL will know that weakness within a few minutes and will shoot at that weakness every time they get the puck. And you have to. The biggest thing about becoming a big name goalie in the NHL is can you overcome that one weakness, right, Josh?
Yes, I agree with you. And you know what, man, I was really impressed last night, about the Ducks. I mean, this is a team that, a lot of people thought that the LA Kings were going to steamroll them, but like Michael said a couple minutes ago, the Kings sat back and the Sharks had the 3-0 lead, and they came running back. So you got to watch out for those Kings. Right when you think the team's done, they surprise you. I got my cousin texting me last night asking me, what's wrong with the team? Is it Jonathan Quick? No, it's not Jonathan Quick. It's the defense. The defense isn't helping him out at all.
Well, I can say this. I can say this safely without incurring the wrath of Julie. Jonathan Quick last night in the first, I would say, 30 minutes of the game was the Jonathan Quick of games 1 and 2 in San Jose. I didn't think he was particularly strong. Now at that point, I think that then Anaheim sort of sat back and LA was carrying the play to them. And we saw that the score narrowed to 4-3, so the pressure wasn't as much on Quick. But when the heat of that game was upon Jonathan Quick, I don't think he came up really big. Not to say, the goaltender of the year is Conn Smythe Trophy winner, Stanley Cup winner, that he can turn it around in Game 6 and win that game and force a Game 7 in Anaheim. But his inconsistency has corresponded to the Kings not being able to win, and it points out that he's probably the most valuable player on that team. Not Kopitar, not Doughty. It's Jonathan Quick.
Oh yeah. There's no question about that, Mike. I agree completely. By the way, the Penguins have scored up here, guys.
Oh.
So if you're just joining us, and a lot of you are, which is great to see. We're going to preview, as we've done the past few nights, the games that are happening tonight on EA Sports NHL 2014 on the Xbox. So right now it's a 1-0 Penguins after 1 in this Game 7 clash. So
I'm really pumped, Eck. I'm really pumped about this game, the Rangers and the Penguins, because you know what? I have no idea, I should say, of what direction it's going to go tonight between the two teams. I mean, the Rangers have all the momentum right now in their corner, although that game obviously in Pittsburgh, if the fans are into it, maybe they can kind of pump the team up a little bit. Now, the question is Marc-Andre Fleury going to be the Marc-Andre Fleury that he was in the Jacket series where he had the blunders and then he came back the next game and was solid? Is he going to be solid tonight? Because to be honest, Zach, I think it rests in his hands. If Marc-Andre Fleury is solid, they're going to win the game. If he's not, it's the Rangers.
No, you're dead on. I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is Marc-Andre Fleury's game. Mm-hmm. Although, the Lundqvist has been amazing in his career in Game 7s, and that's where it comes down to, it's hard not to think the Rangers have a little bit of an advantage tonight, just in every which way. You've got the emotion that they're riding on and the kind of lack of emotion. The Penguins just scored, by the way, to make it 2-0 in that game behind us there. But the Penguins, as opposed to the Penguins on my TV, aren't playing with the same kind of emotion the Rangers are playing with right now. The Rangers are flying high. They're a team that's unified together. They're kind of fighting against the system, and they're fighting against the emotions of Marty St. Louis, and they are a team right now to be absolutely reckoned with. The Penguins are playing a little bit less emotional, but like we saw in Game 7 of the Columbus series, Mike, Penguins have that gear, and if they hit that gear, they know how to win these kind of games.
Yeah, that emotion can be squashed with one goal, and not if the Penguins get out to a 1-0 lead early and the crowd in Pittsburgh gets into it, I'm not saying that they're going to crumble because I think there's enough veteran players on that team to withstand an early rush by the Penguins. But if the Penguins show that they're up to the task, and Crosby is playing well, and Malkin is playing like he did, scoring a hat trick during the Columbus series, and Fleury plays the way he can at some points, then I think Pittsburgh has the advantage. But to your point, Pittsburgh has sort of been a baseline team in this series. They've sort of they haven't gone up a lot, they haven't gone down a lot. The Rangers, obviously, with this whole thing with St. Louis and his family tragedy, they stepped up after Game 4, and you could see it clearly. They won 5-1, then they scored a couple goals early in Game 6, and played an overall pretty phenomenal game. If they carry that forth to Game 7, I think Pittsburgh's in trouble. But I think the early part of this game is gonna tell the tale. If Pittsburgh gets out to a quick lead, I think the Rangers could be in trouble. If it stays 0-0, then as long as it stays tied, the pressure will build and build and build on Pittsburgh, and then I give the Rangers an advantage. But it'll be interesting to watch.
The great unifying factor of all of this is that we always talk about in these playoffs how the team that has to win tends to win, and the emotion goes up and down. When you think about tonight, who has to win this game? Game 7s are usually both, but Josh, what are your thoughts on that?
The Penguins have to win because I think Dan Bylsma is going to get fired if they don't.
Yep, I'm with you. I think the Penguins have to win this game.
Yeah. We've been hearing it all playoff long. Depending on how the Penguins do, is Dan Bylsma going to remain the head coach? And everyone thinks that he's not. Everyone thinks that, they're going to put the blame on Bylsma. Again, to put up 34 coaches fired in the last 3 years and change, it always falls on the coach. And Bylsma's not going to last on the sidelines long, guys. Every team, the 4 teams right now that are looking for a head coach, there could be a couple of teams that, hey, Bylsma is available. Let's fire our coach. It's possible that could start happening.
I think there are ramifications on both sides depending on who loses tonight. First, to go along with that, Bylsma is in trouble. And I think further than that, you have the possibility of there being a shakeup of the Pittsburgh roster. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen because there's no guarantee of anything happening, but there's always been talk of the Crosby-Malkin thing, whether there's room for both of them, whether you have to provide wingers for Sidney Crosby. Can he continue his career with the likes of Lee Stempniak, Pascal Dupuis, and Chris Kunitz as his wingers, and you're not getting the full benefit of him by not giving him guys who can play with him and produce with him. With the range, and Marc-Andre Fleury would probably be gone if the Penguins lose. You got Brooks Orpik as a UFA, Matt Niskanen as a UFA. They may want to make some subtle or maybe drastic roster changes. So they may be in the mix with other teams like Toronto and San Jose and Washington, who may be open to big changes in the offseason. For the Rangers, we talked about it a couple times. Who is the compliance buyout? I don't think that Lundqvist is locked up long term. Their defense is locked up long term. The decision making process for Glenn Sather, if Glenn Sather is the GM going forward, is buyout of Nash or buyout of Richards. What trades to make? They're a very top heavy organization with a lot of expensive guys at the top of their food chain, and it's just a question of which one. They have one compliance buyout left, and which one they choose to jettison and spend the money elsewhere.
Yeah. And have you guys been impressed with Chris Letang? Because to be honest, I have not talked about this at all, but I've been feeling this the whole time. How do they allow a guy to come back and play after having a stroke in 1 year? Like a couple months ago, I honestly think they should have shut him down for the year. That's a serious thing to have a stroke. I know they left it in his hands when he wanted to come back, but you know what? Chris Letang does not look like the Chris Letang that we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
He's not impressed me at all. I mean, I think he's been a big reason why a lot of goals have been scored. He's missed assignments. I really worry about this guy's health, and if it was a smart move, bringing him back.
I couldn't agree more. And honestly, it's not up to a team in this situation to let the player decide whether he's ready to come back, because the players are always going to be ready to come back, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the NFL too, right?
Yeah,
right.
And I'm sure he was medically cleared, and they want to cover themselves in terms. I mean, if he's able to play, if he's and he's medically cleared, and I'm sure with the stroke that he's on some sort of blood thinners. That's because most people who have strokes, I've had people in my family who've had strokes, and they're naturally on blood thinners later on. And if he was okay with that, then there's no reason not to play him. I mean, to me, and I agree with Josh, I was a little scared, a little surprised that he was coming back. The only thing I could use as a comparative is if Rich Peverly had come back with the Dallas Stars. I mean, the guy had a heart attack. He was he was clinically dead for a few seconds on the bench. If he would have come back playing in the playoffs, the fear that I would have as a fan of the Dallas Stars or as a fan of the game is having like a Reggie Lewis type of incident where a player expires on the ice. I mean, I never want to see that happen. It would be a terrible thing. It's been a terrible thing in the past for other sports like Hank Gathers in college basketball.
Yeah.
You don't want that happening. So, but the thing is, if they are cleared medically, there's no good reason for them to keep a player out.
Yeah, I mean, there's no good reason, but there's also a common sense part of this whole thing.
Yes.
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, also, guys, we don't know exactly what's going on with him. He's playing through this. God forbid something happens again, in the off season or soon, and it is a direct reason why, a direct reason of him coming back. What's going to stop him from a couple years down the road of doing what they're doing in the NFL? Suing the league for concussions. And
that's already underway. That's already underway. I mean, that's already going on. I've talked to ex-players. There's already those talks are happening, and there's no question.
But a stroke is different, obviously, than a concussion, I guess, or maybe it's kind of a result of the concussion. I don't know, but you know what? I can see him later down, a couple years down the road saying, you know what, they shouldn't have let me come back. I have a hard time spending time with my family, doing regular things. I mean, that's the kind of thing we could very well hear about here in a couple of years.
Oh yeah, and we saw it with Eric Lindros too after he retired. If you remember, there was all kinds of talk about the Flyers were brushing him and pushing him into situations, and I mean, we live in a litigious society, and it's definitely a tricky situation. But I think at the end of the day, I think the Penguins, to get back to the original question, have more to lose by losing tonight's game. And I think that is another reason why you can sit back and say, okay, maybe the Penguins are going to take this game. By the way, they are definitely taking it to the Rangers here. It's 3-0 in the third, although some would say that's just where you want to be with the Penguins, down 3-0 in the third.
I'm interested in what's on your bottom TV there, too, Eck. Is that the old Nintendo?
Yes. Thanks for noticing this. Nintendo Hockey. Remember Nintendo Hockey? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is one of the best ice hockeys of all time. This is before you had actual players or teams affiliated with it, so it's just countries. And you didn't so all you could do was decide, if you wanted if you had 4 players, you wanted a thin, skinny, fast guy, a big, fat, slow guy, or a medium-sized white guy. And you had those are your 3 options, and you made up your team from there. And this was an incredibly fun game to play. So yeah, I just had to bring it out.
Kind of want to go on eBay and try to find it.
Oh yeah. The thing is now you can actually buy these. My son got really into Nintendo and Zelda and Mario and a bunch of things, and you can buy now for not much, just a little box that plays the old Nintendo cartridges, and you can find the cartridges for nothing. So yep, that's what we did.
Is that the one that has the Nintendo, the Genesis, and the all? Yeah, I'm trying to find those actually.
Super Nintendo, yep. Super Nintendo, and Genesis. So we have like Sonic and all kinds of fun things. So it's fun stuff. But
NHL '95 was amazing. I
mean, that's Sega. And that's talking to Mike. Sometime in the future on our podcast, we're going to do a segment of that kind of stuff, like where we discuss like NHL '95 just in the summer when we have off time, or discuss this game, or actually play one of these games, or kind of go through it. That would be a lot of fun.
I love being the Nordiques in '95. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Joe Sakic, Matt Sundin, Owen
They
Nolan.
could fly. I know they could fly. NHL '95, and then that was when that was the first year they had fighting in the game where there's blood that poured out of the guy's head when he fell to the ice. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good stuff. Good.
I remember this. I remember the swingers scene very well.
Oh yeah.
Watching Gretzky bleed always brought a nice feeling to my heart.
And Jeremy Roenick was unbelievable in those games. I remember that was the one thing. JR was just incredible. He would always dominate those games. My friend was the Hawks all the time, so I would just get killed in those games by JR back then. So yeah, we'll definitely talk into that a little bit more. But yeah, I think the Penguins have more to lose tonight. I think we're seeing it by the way they're playing back here, and this game has all sorts of. It's really one of those coin toss games. It really is. I mean, Lundqvist can steal the game at any point and has stolen Game 7s. The Penguins can win a game in a dominating fashion. We've seen that in Game 7s. So who knows? I mean, this is going to be a great one. Looking forward to that one for sure. Let's get back to Montreal-Boston from last night. Montreal just backs to the wall, and for how many times now that they've been in this situation? By the way, the Penguins just went up 4-0 on here. How many times have we seen Montreal in this situation before? And they've won every Game 6, I guess, they've ever been in against the Bruins to force a Game 7, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I thought Boston was going to finish the series up, but Montreal obviously came back, won a huge game last night. Again, PK Subban, can't knock the guy.
Yeah.
Canadians looked very impressive last night. But you know what? I'm going to say this again. I honestly believe the Boston Bruins are going to come back again. Because whenever they have a really bad game, they come back and play a better game the next one, usually. And I strongly believe the Bruins are still going to win the series.
Well, they're the one with the most to lose now, right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, but they handle pressure very well. And this is, I mean, after going into Vancouver in Game 7 3 years ago, I don't think anything is as challenging as that. So this is a walk in the park, and not to say that that they're going to win this game guaranteed, because Montreal has fought pretty well so far in the series, and they played very well last night. I mean, Lars Eller gets that goal, takes advantage of I think a bad decision by Tuukka Rask, and scores 2 minutes into the first period, and you didn't need to give much to the crowd at the Bell Center to get them whooped up. And Montreal gets the early goal. It stays 1-0 until Pacioretty puts them up 2-0, and then Vanek scores a couple minutes later. And essentially the entire third period, I didn't see very much of a hint of a Boston comeback. I think at one point they just said to themselves, "Okay, we're going to conserve our energy. We're going to save it for Wednesday night at the TD Garden, and we're going to run these guys, and we're going to hit them, and we're going to play Boston Bruins hockey in Game 7, and if that's not good enough, then Montreal deserves to win the series. But I think they're going to concentrate a lot on Subban and hit him, and it's going to be a difficult situation, because if they are a little more too overzealous, they could draw some penalties, and Montreal with their power play could make them pay. But I think that it's going to be a typical Bruins Game 7. Physical, high pressure, and I picked them in 7, so I'm sticking with my prediction.
Yeah, I think I did too. But I'm not so sure anymore. I'm wavering big time. This is I was at that game in Vancouver, Game 7, Stanley Cup final game, and this is a different kind of pressure than the Bruins had in that game. Granted, it's Game 7. It's a Stanley Cup final, so everybody has everything to lose in that game. So that sort of goes out the window. But when you're playing on the road, in a game that many people probably thought they were going to lose because they were playing on the road, and it was Game 7, and then you go in there and you steal a game. It was the Canucks who had the most pressure on them in that game.
Sure.
Because who the home team does. In a Stanley Cup Game 7, the home team definitely has the pressure on them. But everybody wants to win it, right? So this situation, though, being home, the pressure on you now, and the Montreal Canadiens coming to town, this is the most pressure the Bruins have been under for a while, Josh. I mean, this is where I see it.
But the Bruins, yeah, I mean, but like as Mike said, the Bruins play their best when they're under pressure, and it's case in point last year what we saw, the collapse in against Toronto, where everyone thought that maybe hey Toronto's gonna win. No, no,
I
big
thought
time
that.
collapse.
I
But you know
texted
what?
that to Mike. Mike,
Zdeno Chara is one of my favorite players. Not because he's a friend and a nice guy, but because he's a leader. He's the kind of leader that every team wishes that they had, including here in Toronto, which what we're going through here. But you know what? Zdeno Chara is a leader, and he gets that team ready. And you know what? I honestly believe Boston's going to come back.
Well, today is the 1-year anniversary of that auspicious
Oh.
Game 7, unfortunately.
oh my God.
Burned, ingrained in my memory banks. But no, to your point, I mean, this is not the same team as Game 7 in Vancouver 3 years ago. I mean, you have a different goaltender in Tuukka Rask. Jerome McGinley's there. Nathan Horton's not there. I mean, the constitution of this team is different, but the work ethic is the same. The pressure is on them, sure. And I think the pressure is on specifically a couple players on Boston. Chara has to step it up, and I know that people were making comments about, that little tete-a-tete that was going on between him and Weaver and him and Markov at the end of the third period last night, and not poking the bear, so to speak. And
always a good metaphor when the Bruins are involved, Mike. Always a good metaphor.
Zdeno Chara is going to be up for a Game 7, whether you poke the bear or not poke the bear.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I think the key is going to be David Krejci, who has done absolutely nothing in this series. And I don't know if it's injury. We won't know until after the season. But David Krejci, who killed Toronto last year with, I think, 10 points in 7 games, he's got to show up against Montreal and provide a little bit of offense. Otherwise, I think Montreal could beat them. I still pick Boston. I'm sticking with that team.
And you know who's also big in Game 7s? He's got 3 goals so far this year, a little behind his pace last year, Patrice Bergeron. I could see Patrice having a huge night tonight. Not tonight, but next time they play. Tomorrow.
Yeah, I remember him scoring last year.
Oh, yeah. But he always steps it up big for Game 7s. That's where he gets his big goals. And you know what? I honestly believe Bergeron's going to be huge for them.
Well, if any indication from our simulation back there, the Penguins won that game 4-0. Took the Rangers apart in that game. Marc-Andre Fleury with another shutout. So
believable. I told you.
Believable. Now we're on to Minnesota, Chicago, guys. So we started that game up here. So this is the Wild and the Hawks, and we'll see where this goes to. And that is the perfect segue into the Wild and Hawks, who do play tonight, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. I screwed this up before, so yes, they do play tonight. And this game, even though it's not a Game 7, it feels like a Game 7. To me it does at least. I think that, the Wild and Blackhawks are both undefeated in the playoffs at home. Both teams are one's 6-0, one's 5-0, right? So this is a really, this is what it comes down to, right? Can the Wild keep that trend going and win again at home? And I don't see why they can't. The Hawks don't have the pressure. The Hawks' pressure was all on them in Game 5, and they came through in a big way.
Right.
The pressure now is back on Minnesota to a degree, although I would venture to say it's still on Chicago because going back to Game 7, you don't want that. Brizgalov's still in goal, although rumors out there that Harding could play Game 7 if that's possible, if they get there. That would be really interesting. Mike, you're shaking your head on that one?
No. That would. I agree with your assessment that would be very interesting when you have a goaltender who, and I've been one of the bigger critics of Brizgalov to the point of, just jabbing him with humorous comments constantly when he lets in a goal.
This goal he just gave up here. Watch this. He just gives up his goal to start the game off of Brendan Saad.
Yeah.
Bad goal.
That's art imitating life there because he does have the tendency of allowing a momentum or emotion crushing goal. But if he does win tonight and they go to Game 7, and he's carried you through the entire series, he's won 3 games for you. He's coming off a win, and you're going to go to somebody who hasn't played in 2 months. It's a little dicey. If it was Darcy Kemper, And Darcy Kemper doesn't have a great resume. I mean, in terms of a lengthy resume, whereas Josh Harding has been a very good goaltender for a long time. Then I could understand them bringing Kemper back after the way he played against Colorado, but Harding hasn't played since I think late February, since before the Olympics. I think it was maybe before or slightly after. So that would be a very risky roll of the dice for Mike Yeo, almost as big of a risk as John Gibson being started by Bruce Boudreau.
Gutsy, very gutsy.
All right, enough. For those of you who didn't watch yesterday, we talked yesterday about this, and I think it's not a gutsy move to play Gibson. I thought it was the only move. Josh said it was a gutsy move, and then Josh got backed up by coach in the coach's corner, Don Cherry, who said it was also a gutsy move. I disagree with both of them, and still, that's where I'm going to keep my stance. This, playing Josh Harding would be gutsy. I will throw that out to you. Yeah. Playing Josh Harding would be very, very gutsy.
I don't recommend it, though.
What was that?
I don't recommend it, though. Why not wait? If Minnesota somehow does get by Chicago, that's when you play Harding. Play in the first game. Give it a shot. Then you give it a shot. Not when it's, your life is on the line. You don't put a guy in that hasn't played in months, and, you're taking a huge gamble. Gutsy, as you said. Not as gutsy as Boudreau, but go ahead.
Oh, man.
I'm going to get fired again if I don't stop.
Yeah, you're not going to get fired. When I put that out on Twitter, people were like, oh, you're really going to fire Josh? That's a bad idea. He's a good writer. He gets a lot of... I'm like, I'm not firing Josh.
We're just going to send you to our affiliate in Siberia.
Oh, nice.
Tallahassee is the Hockey Buzz podcast of AHL affiliate. You know that, right?
I'll go to Florida. Although the weather's finally nice here. So.
Right, no, it's Tallahassee for sure. So, all right, so let's get back to this for a second. Brizgalov has been very good, no question. He's been very good, and what he's been really good at, in my opinion, is rebound control. He is very good at swallowing up everything and breaking the momentum, and that plays right into the system, Mike, that the Wild are playing to keep the Hawks from getting into any kind of rhythm. And they just took it. By the way, there you see Jonathan Toews just added another goal, so it's 2-0 behind me. And Brizgalov not happy about the goal, skates into the corner.
And just like in real life, the body language of Ilya Brizgalov is emotion deflating.
Not just emotion deflating. It's bizarre.
That goal sorry.
No, he's terrible. I mean, even during the games, you'll see him go like what? What was that? Throw his arms up in the air. It's terrible. So yeah. So Brizgalov's been good, and he's been controlling the rebounds, and he's been keeping it simple, which is what you need to do when you have it. But the team in front of him has been really good. They've been keeping it like 15 shots a game, so that's a bigger difference, right, Josh? I mean, come on.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Good. That's all for you, Josh. Have a good day. Take care, Josh. Mike, what could you agree with me with on? No.
Literally nothing.
Literally nothing. That's perfectly fine.
No, I mean I agree with your point that what their tactic has been is to freeze the play as much as possible, because I think that Chicago is a skating team, is a momentum team. They get a lot of goals not only off the rush, but also they work the cycle very well. So stopping the play is of a benefit to I think a more structured defensive team like Minnesota. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. I mean, they're also trying to get rest for guys like Suter, who is probably going to play in an elimination game, is probably going to play close to or over 30 minutes. Him and Jonas Brodin, if they pair them together, they're going to play half the game. So Brizgalov, freezing the puck gives him another minute of a rest and allows him to stay out there. And you'll notice when there's a TV timeout, Suter will be the last shift before the TV timeout, and then the first shift after the TV timeout. So he gets a 2 or 3 minute rest, and he stays out there and he eats up ice time. Not to say that their bottom pairing guys aren't good, but Ryan Suter is one of the best defensemen in the NHL, and that's what they're going to continue to do.
And that's what we're all getting to see, right? Because that's the great thing about this whole thing is in the playoffs, we don't really get to see the Wild all that often. But right now, we're seeing just how good and how worth every cent that he was paid Ryan Suter is. I mean, he is literally an amazing, one of the top 5 defensemen in the league. When you watch what he does out there for this team, I mean, it's hard to imagine where the Wild would be without him, Josh.
Oh, I agree, 100%. And you know what? I was one of those guys shaking my head when Ryan Suter got that big contract with Zach Parise, because in my mind, I wasn't. I only saw Suter play when he was playing with Shea Weber, and I thought maybe Shea Weber had a lot to do with the success that Ryan Suter had. But you know what? Now that he's moved on to Minnesota, doesn't have Shea Weber as his defensive pairing, we now see that it's not Shea Weber that made him better. Possibly it was Weber that made Shea Weber better. No, Weber made Shea Weber better. What am I talking about?
We know
Suter that made Weber better in Nashville.
I agree with you 100% that Weber made Weber better.
Thank you.
And
yes.
And as far as Suter making Weber better, I agree with you on that one as well, because I think that Suter. I mean, it's no secret now why the Predators were always in the playoff hunt. When you look at it, I mean, this is why they were always in the playoff hunt. People were always like, how could the Predators be there? They didn't have any offense. And Trotz did a great job, no question about it. But when you got this going on, I mean, this is something, Mike. This defenseman. We talked about how the Wild were like out New Jersey deviling basically the Blackhawks. They were playing defense. And then Kevin Allen brought up the other day, but they don't have a Scott Stevens or a Scott Niedermayer, but they do have a Ryan Suter, Mike.
Yeah, and I think I think Brodin is an excellent young defenseman who sort of had a sort of a fallback sophomore year, but he's still a pretty good defenseman, stay-at-home type. Who last year they paired with Suter. I don't know if they're doing that as much. I think they're trying to spread the ice time a little bit more evenly. But the thing is, the Weber-Suter argument, it's sort of like Ryan Suter's Uncle Gary with Chris Chelios. They were both good defensemen, and then they came together to make a phenomenal pairing. That was a phenomenal pairing. I think they both helped each other, but separately, they're still top-flight NHL defensemen. What's interesting with Minnesota, if they do lose tonight and the series is over with, is the moves that they're going to make over the summer, because Danny Heatley, his $7.5 million salary says bye-bye. You've got Nicholas Backstrom, who's been hurt 2 years in a row, who they might consider buying out. Who knows what the future is of Josh Harding? And we've been talking about Thomas Vanek going to Minnesota for over a year. I don't see any reason why it doesn't happen. I think he probably fits in nicely as a replacement for Heatley's cap room. And not that he's going to get all $7.5 million of it, but I think that a guy like Vanek and maybe even Ryan Miller, it could be Buffalo West in Minnesota. The weather is sort of like it, so why not?
Josh?
Well, guys, I'm actually surprised Danny Heatley at least didn't put up better numbers this year, because he is going to be a UFA. I thought Danny Heatley was one of those players that once he got his money, he really kind of tailed off, and that he would play better. I actually picked him on my fantasy team this year because I'm like, this guy's
basically. You're just angry. You're angry at him for this.
I thought he was going to, I'm like, Danny Heatley's going to have 60, 65 points this year.
Josh, it is amazing how far Danny Heatley has fallen. I mean, we haven't seen it with any other player that I can remember. I mean, this was a guy who was on.
And what happened, Eck? What happened? It's like he lost his game. I think there was a movie. I forgot what it was called, but the basketball player lost his game, and he's lost his game.
Yeah, it's like there was an angel in the outfield or something that no longer follows Danny Heatley around, because he used to be able to hit. He used to be able to hit a pin in a haystack with a puck from 300 feet away. The Wild have just scored actually to bring this game within one back there. So you used to be able to. I mean, that was Heatley's game. Heatley was the best sharpshooter I had seen in we'd seen since Mike Bossy. I mean, he was that good. And he was right there, and now he has become just a third-line player at best. And
200-point season X with the Ottawa Senators. 200-point seasons, and this year he couldn't even hit 30 points.
It's crazy, Mike.
He lost his speed. He does not have that separation anymore. He used to be able to blow by people and have separation and unleash. He still has the shot. He still has the scoring ability. He doesn't have the speed anymore. Maybe
breaking news: the Wild have tied it at 2.
So is it Danny Heatley that scored?
No, it's Kyle Brodziak.
There you go.
Another bad rebound goal. Well, not a tough job there by Crawford, but yes, it is 2-2 now. The Wild are fighting back in this game.
But Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say he slowly tailed off. I mean, the guy is what? He's 33 years old. I mean, he still should have a lot of hockey left in him.
Yeah.
06-07, 50 goals, 53 assists. 06 or sorry, that was 05-06. 06-07, 50 goals, 55 assists. Then it was 41-41, 39-33, 39-43. 20, like he went from 100 to 80 to 70 to 60 to 50. Now he's in the 20s.
Yeah, I mean it's slowly, ever so slowly losing wheels. And the thing is, he played with Alfredson and Spezza in Ottawa. Then part of the deal going to San Jose, he played with Thornton. Thornton was serving it up to him on a platter. Now who is he playing with?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that he could score 40 goals if he was playing with a top flight playmaking center, but I think his skills have deteriorated. And the thing is, I mean, making all the money that he made, and is the hunger still there? Now, at 33 years old, he's a UFA. There's a possibility he goes someplace with a team that is contending and fits in as a complementary player, and it could have some sort of renaissance. But if you're going to go to a team like, say, just for example, throwing out there Buffalo, who's going to expect you to produce, and you're going to be at top 6, he's not that player anymore. So I think he could go to a Detroit or something, maybe not them, but a team like that needs to plug in 1 or 2 players. But I think the Danny Heatley of 06-07 is gone.
Minus 18 this year, too, Eck.
Minus 18 on a team like the Wild, which is really,
Yeah.
I mean, a good defensive team. I mean, I'm surprised the Wild didn't buy him out in retrospect, when you think about it.
$7.5 million.
But I guess, they went, you keep thinking. I mean, that's the thing with Heatley. That's people keep thinking that he's going to do what you're talking about, Mike. He's going to have a renaissance. There's going to be a moment when he does that, but he keeps getting worse, not better, and it just keeps continuing on the downward spiral. I don't know. It's just a bizarre switch.
I'll give you, and maybe they wouldn't want to do it, but I'll give you one possibility. Boston Bruins. Peter Chiarelli, former Ottawa assistant GM.
Maybe. I mean, it's like he's he's with a contending team now.
Yeah. What if he just needs to go home? What if he goes to an Alberta team? I mean, that's where his family's from. Maybe that might light a fire under him.
He blocked that a few years ago. You remember the marathon podcast that we had on a late June night?
When Edmonton was trying to get him, that was legendary. That was a legendary thing. They got back and forth. They brought him out there. They flew him out there. They talked to him. Oh my gosh, that was crazy. And Danny Heatley just took a penalty, by the way, in our game. If you're watching, as we're speaking, he just took a penalty.
You're gonna send me to Edmonton? 2-2
in the third period here. There's 11 minutes to go. So and the Hawks are on the power play. So we'll see if this goes to Game 7 or not.
And how many times have we heard that a player didn't want to go to Edmonton or stay in Edmonton?
Winnipeg?
I've said this for years, and this is no knock on Edmonton at all. But players don't want to go to Winnipeg either, and it's not a knock on Winnipeg either.
No.
But the difference between Winnipeg and Edmonton is that Edmonton won all the Stanley Cups. But that's the only difference.
They don't want to plug their car in, Heck.
Right, I know. I've heard that whole thing. You got to plug your car in at night. Yeah, I've heard that. I mean, there are players who play there who are from there who love it, and even players who aren't from there who love it. And it's not a terrible organization at all. Both Winnipeg and Edmonton are great organizations. But it is definitely a challenge when you talk to players off the record. They don't want to be jerks about it, but they're like, yeah, if I got a choice, South Beach or St. Petersburg and Tampa, that sounds pretty good to me. Not too bad, Josh. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's where it's at. So, all right. So that's So who's got more pressure on them in this game? What are we thinking between the Wild and the Hawks? Chicago.
No, Minnesota. I mean, it's elimination time. I think if Minnesota wins, then the pressure's on Chicago in Game 7 because it's a one-game situation. But right now it's Minnesota. I mean, Chicago gets up 1-0, 2-0. See ya.
I'm kind of with you on that one because this is the thing with the Hawks are an arrogant team, and they think that they can lose this game and win Game 7 no problem. It's a little bit different than some teams who are afraid to go back to play Game 7 at home. I don't think the Hawks have any question in their minds that they can win Game 7 at home. And where the Bruins shouldn't have felt that way last night, looked like they showed up like they felt that way last night. but they shouldn't have because that's a whole different ball of wax there when you're trying to beat the Canadians on home ice. But I think the Hawks think, you know what? So this is a game I give to the Wild tonight. I really do. I think this is the Wild's game. I really do. So let's talk UFAs for a second because one of the things we do on the podcast, and for those of you just watching us live, it's fun. We appreciate you guys watching us live. A little bit about what we're doing here. This is our 23rd podcast. We do them every day at 1 o'clock, Monday through Friday, around 1 p.m. Sometimes the time changes a little bit here or there, but it's usually at 1 o'clock or thereabouts. It's always with Mike, Josh, myself, Julie Robenheimer usually, Kevin Allen quite often from USA Today. And you can subscribe on the YouTube channel. And we really kind of want your opinion on it because we're just getting going here. We know we're going to do a lot more of these and a lot different kinds of podcasts, but this is our first real experiment in the video podcast world, and the Hawks have just scored to take a lead. But this is our first real experience in the video podcasting world. So whatever you guys are seeing that we're doing or not doing that you like or don't like, please let us know. Either send an email to eklund@hockeybuzz.com or send a tweet to one of us, and and we'll listen because we definitely want to make this your show, and it's a daily show, and we're going to do all kinds of interesting things in the summer as well. But so just pass the word around. We really appreciate you guys watching. It really means a lot to us indeed. And one of the things we've been trying to do every day is talk about a potential UFA or a potential possible trade. Yesterday we got into the Jason Spezza stuff. I think that was yesterday.
Yeah, and Dion Phaneuf as well.
Dion Phaneuf, right, which I talked about yesterday. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about Thomas Vanek, Mike, who he is still playing, and we usually don't do this, but that you brought him up is an interesting point that he has. He is so one of those players we've heard forever wants to go to Minnesota, and I always get scared of these when you've heard forever some player wants to go there in my line of work. It seems so obvious, and sometimes it just happens. Brad Richards wanted to go to the Rangers. We all knew that for years. He went to the Rangers, and that happens. But sometimes it doesn't happen.
He wanted to go to the Rangers, but that was a trade. But anyway.
Right, Marty saying the way. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes we hear these things, and the player just doesn't go there, or they can't.
Luongo wanted to go to Florida. Yes, someone fire.
Right. Exactly, Josh. I mean, so it's but Vanek. Okay, so Vanek. My question is this.
Okay.
What kind of player is Thomas Vanek really? I mean, we've seen him. He's a skilled player. Mike, you saw him a lot in Buffalo.
Yep.
He's a great guy, great family person, a great person. I've met him. I've talked to him. But is he in that, good player level? Is he a great player? Is he a superstar? What does he really bring? Is he a first-line player or a second-line player? Mike, you know him probably better than anyone else. And the Hawks have just scored to wrap the series up there into an open net. But Mike, you tell me, what do you think of Thomas Vanek?
Well, he's not a superstar. He's 30 years old, so in terms of his age and where he is in his career, he is in his prime, but on the road going down. The thing is that he's had a lot of injuries throughout his career. He's played through a lot of injuries. He's a character guy. He's a good guy in the locker room. I mean, yeah, it could be urban myth that he wants to go to Minnesota, but
I don't think it is. It's not urban myth. It's not. It's definitely real. I mean, that's definitely something that's been said to people. He knows, friends of his I've talked to. That is definitely something that he always said he wanted to go to Minnesota. His wife's from there. The whole 9 yards. That's real. Go and continue.
And he played at the University of Minnesota, so I don't think it's urban myth, but it's all a question. And this is the thing that could scuttle the potential of him going to Minnesota is what his expectation is going to be in terms of a contract.
Right.
Are they going to want to give a 30-year-old who has been through wars 6-7 years? Probably not. They're probably going to want to limit the term to 5. They're probably going to play on his desire to play in Minnesota and get him on a shorter deal. 5 years, I would think, would be their max, maybe 6 at the most. I don't think they're going to go 7. So that if he can turn around and go to some place like San Jose, who would offer him a 7-year deal, or Anaheim, or some other place that will offer him 7 years, then there might be a problem with the theory of him going to the Wild. But he's not a complimentary player. He's a top 6 forward but he's not a top line forward anymore. And at the point in his career, I think he would be what Danny Heatley should have been with Minnesota. I think he fits in on their top six. Maybe plays with Mikko Koivu. Maybe plays with Granlund, who you can slot him in. He might play with Pominville, which he played with Pominville for years in Buffalo. So it gives the Wild an effective second line. Have Parise on their first line and have Pominville and Vanek on the second line. Gives them scoring depth, and if they can plug the hole of their goaltending situation and add to their defense, and they have a young kid like Dumba coming up who might make the Wild next year as part of their blue line.
He will.
They're a team that could very well give Chicago a run. They're already giving Chicago a run for their money in the playoffs this year, but I mean a serious run for their money along with St. Louis in that Central Division. So I mean I think Vanek plugs in well with them, but it's not 100% guarantee he goes to Minnesota.
Josh?
Guys, I think he does go to Minnesota. My sources in the summer, and I tweeted about it, I was told that Vanek continues to tell family and friends in Minnesota when he spends his off-season home, where he has his off-season home, continues to tell family and friends that he wants to play for the Wild. That's his dream. He wants to be in Minnesota. He wants to be closer to family and friends. Obviously, like you guys said, his wife lives there. He went to school there. He wants to be a Minnesota Wild. That still doesn't make sense. But anyway, the way you say it.
Like
but
a blister in the sun. Like a blister in the sun. Yep, there you
go. He wants to be there. That's where he wants to go, and I could see him taking less money, less term to sign there, and I would not be surprised if that happens.
He's going to have to, I think. I really do. I really do believe that.
They'll start having the Kenny Holland discount, like he gets players to stay for less. I think they're going to have to start doing that in Minnesota.
Well, this is a team that they did go all in on Parise and Suter. Yeah. So they have, where they are right now. That was only 2 years ago. So this is not, they were definitely light last summer for sure. But this is not a summer those Parise and Suter contracts aren't going away anytime in the near future. So they still have to deal with that. And if Vanek wants to play there, he's going to have to play there for less. I mean, there's other players that want to play there too. And it's interesting how many players have actually said, like I've heard Kyle Oposo wants to play there. Yeah. Will he go there? Eventually, or something like that. There's definitely all different sorts of guys who want to play for Minnesota. They either have some ties to it, and that's cool. I think that's great for hockey. I think it's great when guys go and play for their hometowns. You usually see it more in Canada than you do in the U.S. So it's kind of interesting that this is happening in the U.S. at one of our. There's for all the kids from Massachusetts, that we get that come through. You don't see them often saying I got to play for the Bruins. Which is surprising because the Bruins are such a a legendary team and the Wild are so new.
Well, that's sort of Toronto. That's sort of the Toronto Maple Leafs syndrome because there's a lot of Ontario players, a lot of kids out there who are fans of the Leafs who don't want to play for the Leafs. We talked about Rick Nash yesterday. a lot of them just don't want the pressure of that big media market in Toronto. I think Vanek, like we were just talking about, I think Vanek if he takes a 5-year deal for lesser money, it's going to be one of those lock-in deals where he gets a no move, the no trade. You cannot move me. I'm giving you a bargain, so you're going to give me what I want. Right. If that's the case, I think that's where he goes. If they won't give him that kind of locked deal, then he could go someplace else. But I agree. I think he's bound there, but we'll see.
Thinking back to the last thing I'll say is thinking back to the whole trade deadline this year. The two guys we were following the most were Vanek and Molson quite often, Mm-hmm. And Matt Molson's a name that I've heard a lot of rumors about as well. Here's another guy he's hurt right now, but he's still playing. But I think he's heading back to Buffalo. That's what I've heard. I've heard he's going back to Buffalo. They liked it there, and that before he left there, he said he wanted to come back there.
Yeah.
So, that's something that I've heard pretty strongly. Vanek has been another situation. I can't help but think about both these guys. Okay, were rumored at one point to go to Anaheim last year during the trade deadline, and the name that kept coming up was Sami Vatanen. Remember? Yes. He was the big name that everybody was talking about. How good is Sami Vatanen? I mean, watching him in the playoffs right now, that kid is all that's advertised. And how he wasn't on this team the entire year, that they have the depth that they could send him down and actually season him in the AHL is insane. I mean, It's a gutsy move by Bruce Boudreaux. I will give you that.
I think
Gutsy not playing one of your best defensemen all year.
I think
yeah.
I think the
Not smart, but gutsy. Go ahead, Mike.
I think the reason why is because they already had one rookie in Lindholm and they didn't want to have to sort of, worry about having two rookies on the blue line. I think that was a factor in it. I mean,
It's
Lindholm
definitely a factor. It was a factor, but I mean, they've got a lot of people were drawing before I even saw Sammy Vatanen play in North America. People were like Bill Meltzer, who I really trust with European players. Were comparing him to Kimmo Timonen. Here's a really old name from the past. Who I compare him to right now is Jyrki Lumme.
Oh God.
He reminds me of Jyrki Lumme in his style. Who I was always a Lumme fan, Josh.
Former Leaf.
No, we're talking about the Jyrki Lumme of the Vancouver Canucks era,
and the Montreal Canadiens.
Not the shell of Jyrki Lumme they played for the Leafs.
You mean when he reminded you of Aki Berg?
He was. This is how every podcast ends. If you're just watching in the beginning, every podcast ends with a bunch of Toronto sighs.
Bite your tongue, Josh.
Back and forth. Yep, that's it.
You're gonna bring in 1 year Erickson and Corey Cross next? What the hell?
I know. I wish I had a lighter. I would light up a lighter for you guys. Actually, I'll use this guy. This will be in honor of the 1 year anniversary of the Leafs blowing one of the most famous games, almost epically. At least it was a team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals, is all I can say. So anyway, there you have it. All right, I'm getting a little frightened about what's coming from Josh in the next minute here. Yep, that was 1 year ago today. And I never forget watching that game and texting Mike, like with a few minutes left, and saying, damn it, you guys are actually going to win this series. I just felt like the Leafs had it in the bag. And, of course, you didn't, Mike, because you grew up watching this team. But
no, it's just I was watching that game, and like I said on a previous webcast, when Boston scored the goal to make it 4-2, I believe it was Lucic, with about 11 minutes left to go, I said they're going to find a way to lose this game, and not because, just because it's the Leafs. They, it's like it's that Murphy's Law type of thing that you expect the worst, hope for the best, but expect the worst. I was hoping for the best, but I expected the worst, and I got the worst because allowing 2 goals in the last couple minutes, and it was not only the players, it was the coaching as well, because Randy Carlyle overplayed a certain number of players because he had to, because he couldn't depend on other players to play the defensive game that he wanted. It ended up being, a disaster, and I think in a way, has scarred the franchise, because as soon as they started losing a couple games this March after having a pretty good season, that Game 7 Boston mentality came up, and the panic, and it's ingrained in the team and ingrained in the fans, and that the collapse that they went through in the last month of the season was a reflection of Game 7 against Boston.
No, definitely agree. Definitely agree. What do you think, Josh's stomach?
I think we've lost Josh.
We lost him temporarily. That's okay. It's pretty funny. Either that or he's rescuing his cat from something.
No, I'm here.
Are you with us, Josh? He doesn't have headphones on.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were asking your belly button a question.
Oh, okay.
We asked your stomach a question there, and didn't get a response. So no, but anyway, that was that was good. Good times. Good times to remember, Mike and Josh.
Oh yes.
Good memories. Good memories. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Thanks for joining and subscribing. This is the Hockeybuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. Every day, Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, Eastern, 1 o'clock. Or do that in a different order. But something like that. And yeah, we'll try to give you the hockey news and the rumors and everything for the day. So make sure you watch again. We'll talk to you soon. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Julie will be back tomorrow, and or Kevin Allen as well. And Josh, what are you doing? Oh, that was excellent. All right. We will see you. I see what you're trying to do. Remember, without the buzz,
it's just hockey.
there you go. Talk to you soon.